All right, here we go. Welcome to The Capable Creative, a podcast where creativity meets confidence and cash flow. With me, your host, Lauryn Hill, the other Lauryn Hill. Thank you for tuning in. I am seriously just so thrilled, so excited to be here for my first episode ever. I had a podcast that I was co-hosting with one of my clients, Izata Page, and that was such a fun experience. I've wanted to start my own podcast for years, and I am finally doing it. I love learning through listening, and I'm always listening to podcasts or trainings or coaching. I always have things in my ear in the morning to get me started and inspired for the day ahead. So I hope that this is what this is for you. I really just want to get a little bit more intimate with my audience. As creepy as that sounds, I just really want a space where I can share a little bit more about my journey in a real way and all of the good, bad, and the ugly, the failures, the wins, and everything in between. Because I know firsthand how difficult it can be to be an artist in this day and age, to be a creative in this day and age. I went to art school and studied illustration. I graduated from college back in 2009. And, it was difficult. I'm not going to lie. I graduated and did not know what to do with myself. I felt like I had learned a lot of skills to create art, but as far as selling my art and having a business, I had no idea how to do that. So what did I do? I went to find a job. And thankfully, I lucked out, I guess. I also took action, which I'll go into in a later episode. I've talked about before on a lot of my trainings about my experience finding my first job, my first real job at an art gallery in the Napa Valley, and then going on to have bigger dreams after working in that gallery for 6 years and selling millions of dollars worth of other people's art, going on to have bigger dreams and wanting to move to LA to be around more creatives, more artists, more successful businesses, and figuring out, all right, how am I going to make that happen? Which I did. It took me 6 months, but I was able to land a job at the international art book publisher Taschen as a wholesale representative, account manager for selling their books to other businesses like Nordstrom, Pottery Barn, RH, the museums up and down the West Coast, bookstores, a lot of cute boutiques and things. And I ended up becoming one of the top salespeople at Taschen, and then was ready for the next thing, right? As a creative, I'm always coming up with ideas, and I have a lot of dreams. So I went on to start my own business as a career coach for creatives, helping other creatives with their own career journey. And I know how isolating it can be to be an artist and a business owner, and the over-analyzing that is involved, the overthinking, the insecurities that come up as an artist, and even just as a career professional, right? I know firsthand about the scarcity with money and the confusion and the stuckness that we all feel sometimes. And I really have created a way to help people link passion and profit, right? Finding purposeful work that supports you in many different ways, not only financially, but also with making an impact and feeling purposeful in your life. And I've struggled with a lot of really challenging times. I grew up in a small town in the Napa Valley, which is now, of course, a much bigger worldwide attraction because of the wine industry. But, I grew up raising sheep and 4-H and working at a Mervyn's department store for my first job. And I really, struggled with a lot of mental health issues, crippling social anxiety, panic attacks, and then which led me to drugs and alcohol. And that was fun for a girl that went to art school, right? That's perfect for a girl that went to art school. I ended up getting sober 11 years ago in 2014. And I've struggled with, deep depression, not wanting to be alive, body dysmorphia, eating disorders, autoimmune diseases, I've really been through it, as a lot of you have too, I imagine. I think as artists, we are sensitive beings, and as the human experience is not easy. And that's part of the reason I became a coach, is I just became obsessed with personal development, spirituality, and other recovery tools, because I felt like I was suffering so much. I was suffering, and I felt like I was in the deepest, darkest pit sometimes, and I had to find a way out or I was going to die. And I just want to be able to have a place to share more of the behind the scenes and help others who struggle with these things, at least feel like they're not so alone. It's a lonely world out here sometimes, and I really just want a space for people to come to hear that they're not alone. I am an artist. Like I said, I write poetry, I paint, I draw, I love music and dancing. Creativity is my passion. Even since I was a young girl, I've always loved to be in my room doing art by myself or with another person and just creating magic through my hands. My hands are my art muse, I guess. Well, yeah, typing, writing, painting, all of those things. I do not have that great of a singing voice. Leave that to some other people who have that gift. But my gift has really been through painting, drawing, and writing. And so what I did is made the decision to dedicate my life to overcoming these obstacles and challenges that had come up for me, and grow through them, to learn through them, to use them as fuel, to use the obstacles as opportunities. And I want to help others do the same. One of my coach actually has a mantra, because she's a coach for life coaches, and she says, I go first, I go often, and I go with purpose. And I really want to embody that belief as a coach and as a mentor for a lot of other creatives out there. That's what I have to do. I have to go first. I have to challenge myself to believe that I can do this. And I have to do it often to keep growing, to keep expanding, to keep helping others, to keep being plugged in to that purpose, because I know I have a deep purpose. I knew since I was a young girl that I had a big purpose. I envisioned myself speaking on stages, having books, having art out in the world, and being an inspiration to other people. I knew since I was a little girl that was my path. I just didn't know how it was going to all unfold. And it's still unfolding, that's for sure. So I'm so excited for you to be here and along for the ride. So what is the Capable Creative all about? This is really a podcast that's in line with my mission, which I've talked about a little bit already. But as a coach, I really want to help you see that you can become the capable creative who has control over your destiny. I believe that creativity is our birthright. We come out of the womb creative. Like, creativity is just coming up with ideas, is what I believe. Coming up with solutions. And so I really think that everyone has a creative bone in their body. It just shows up differently for different people. But this podcast is really dedicated to people, not only of the traditional arts, right? Artists, painters, sculptors, photographers, writers. Some of the other art forms like musicians, actors, dancers, but also some more like non-traditional type artists, creatives, like big thinkers or coaches or musicians or clowns. Like I like to expand the idea of what kind of creative people would be in this atmosphere. So this podcast is really available here for anyone who's interested in creativity and or making money creatively. And I know firsthand how overwhelming it can be to be an artist and a creative. Like I said, I have millions of ideas all of the time, as I'm sure you do too. Like, as creatives, we're always coming up with ideas. Long lists, lots of lists running around. And not to mention the societal programming that we get as artists, that making money as an artist is hard. I know growing up, my dad was always like, you want to be an artist? How are you going to make any money doing that? And I was like, let me show you. So I really believe that building a lucrative career doing fulfilling creative work can be simple. But we like to complicate it because we're artists. We're creative. We come up with a lot of things to distract and get in our way, and it's hard to focus in. And so I am here to help you simplify the process, to make the process simple. And what makes this podcast different than any other podcasts in personal development, career, creativity, art, even a little mix of spirituality, but what makes this different is me, obviously. But me being that I want to help you destigmatize being you. I want to help you see your flaws as your superpowers. Because that's what I've done, and I still am working through that on a daily basis, and I'm going to share a lot about that, my journey. But I want to help you integrate those dark, ugly, shameful parts, just like art does so beautifully. I want to help you own those parts of yourself that you feel like you need to hide, and understand why they need to be seen. And I've had to work through a lot of that inner self-hate. I am a Virgo. I don't know if that's part of it. I actually have Virgo in 4 different planets. I think they're called planets in my chart, which is, I feel like, if you know, you know. Virgo can be organized energy, but it also can be very judgmental and controlling. So I got a little self-hate going on here sometimes that I've had to work through, and I continue to work through. And I want this space to be a place for you to see that you are not alone in your challenges. You are not alone in your suffering, and there is a way out. So you can expect a lot of solo episodes here of me teaching, sharing systems, strategies that have worked for me and hundreds of different creatives that I've worked with, as well as real life coaching behind the scenes, because I want you to be able to hear what it's like to be in the hot seat and overcome major obstacles in minutes, because that's what coaching does. Coaching is a magic wand of sorts where you get to see where you are now, where you want to go, the steps you need to take to get there, and then the thoughts you need to think in order to take the steps. And it's such a simple process, but like I said earlier, we like to complicate things. We like to add on a lot of creative nuances, and I'm here to help you simplify the process. I'll also be covering more topics like pricing, visibility, sales, branding, networking, portfolio development, all of those basic skills that you need to go out there and make money doing your work. And some more fun topics around mindset, which I talked about, spirituality, manifestation, and sprinkling in a little bit of magic, because why not, right? It's the most fun way to live. But really, this place is for real talk, some compassionate coaching, some tough love, some silly giggles, and a ton of inspiration. My goal is that each week you walk away with one takeaway or one concept or a new tool that will really help you shift from self-doubt and fear into love, courage, and sufficiency, or from feeling stuck into being able to take one step forward or many steps forward into action. From impossible to possible. Because I believe your dreams are here for a reason. I believe that when we have these visions, when we have these inner knowings, these intuitions as creatives, those visions, those dreams are here for a reason, and they should not be denied. They can be organized because we can't work on them all at once. But those dreams, those visions, they're real. And they are possible, if not inevitable. And that's what I want to help you create, is making these dreams, these goals, these visions inevitable. For example, I'm going to share with you a little coaching that happened this week with one of my clients. She was on fire. She said that I just started working with her. This has been 3 weeks, and she's a writer. She plugged into a new writing group. She got accepted to write an article for a magazine, and she was also accepted to write a piece for a book that is going to be published next year. And I asked her, like, what do you think, created this experience for you? And she said that she felt like she was in this kind of this flow state, right? But then she started telling me she was having this fear come up, this fear of it all going away. She knows that she's in the flow state now. Things are manifesting, things are flowing. And we all can understand when these cycles happen, right? We're in flow, which is a high value cycle where things are just happening. You feel like you're on cloud nine, everything's working. And then compared to a low value cycle where you feel like you're stuck, you don't know what steps to take next, everything feels like it's not working, and you feel like there's no way out. Doom and gloom is what it is. So the low value cycle and the high value cycle, and she was fearing getting back into a place of a low value cycle. And so I asked her, like, okay, what are you afraid of the most? Like, when this happens, when this high value cycle ends, what would happen next? Like, what are you afraid of the most? And so she said first she would stop writing, and then she said she'd stop claiming being a writer publicly, and then she said she would stop seeking out help. So that's what she's fearing, is that this high value cycle is going to end. She's going to stop writing, stop claiming it publicly, and stop seeking out help. And then I asked her, what is the feeling that you imagine when you feel this happening? So when you imagine you stop writing, you stop claiming it publicly, what's the feeling or the emotion that comes up for you that would happen during that time? And she said frustrated, blocked, scattered, pent up, unable to focus. And then she got to misaligned. And so what I helped her understand is that these feelings, this is really what we fear. We're fearing having to feel these emotions. We're not fearing the actual action of or inaction of not writing. We're fearing the feeling, having to feel frustrated, misaligned, blocked. Because those aren't good feelings. And a lot of times, our brain wants to keep us safe from having to feel those things. And so knowing that, how can we solve for this? How can we reframe it? And so I gave her a little reframe, which, if she's fearing the misaligned feeling, what could that misalignment do for her? If she got to this low value cycle and she was in it, what could that feeling of misalignment do for her? How could it be? How can you turn that obstacle into an opportunity? And so we came up with what I like to call as a power thought, which I'll talk about a lot more in this podcast. You'll be hearing me talking about power thoughts all the time, because these power thoughts are what drive me forward and drive my clients forward. They're powerful thoughts and beliefs that we work on believing, we work on thinking over and over again to create fuel towards where we want to go. And so this power thought that we came up with is the misalignment is fuel to take action. So with that belief that when I get into a low value cycle, that means I'm going to stop writing, I'm going to stop claiming it publicly, I'm going to stop seeking out help. And because of that, I'm going to have to feel frustrated, blocked, scattered, and misaligned. And what if the misalignment is fuel to take action? What if I believed that? What if I reminded myself that, oh, it's okay to feel misaligned, and that's just my tool, my signal to take action, to keep going, to not stop, to not hide, but to keep taking steps forward. That's my signal. That's my fuel to keep going forward. So that's the reframe we did. And not only that, we came up with a plan. Ahead of time, we came up with action steps that she could take when she gets to that space. So the action steps that we came up with were identify people that she feels alignment with and stay in touch with them. Action number 1. Action number 2 is find accountability. Action number 3 is keep reading, right? Keep staying plugged in and inspired to other writing. And action number 4 is staying engaged in a writing community or going to social events. So with both of these things, the actual action steps that you'll be taking, and then the mindset piece of it to take the actions, right? Knowing that even in a low value cycle, even in the depths of frustration, unfocus, misalignment, that misalignment is just fuel and your signal to keep taking actions forward, to keep reaching out for help, and then giving yourself the action steps so that you don't have to come up with them in the moment. Like, everyone's going to have different action steps that help them get back into alignment. So maybe that's even something you can do for yourself today is, what are 3 to 4 action steps that help me get back into alignment with my creative process, with whatever you're working on. Just like the action steps that she created for herself. And knowing that when you're in that low value cycle, that's just a sign to go over to your action steps and keep taking steps forward. Because it's through action that we create clarity. It's through action that we get more feedback and we understand what to do next. The next right step. So now she has a plan plus a mindset to go with it, to keep taking steps forward. And that's really the power of coaching right there. So this podcast will really be a mix of strategy, mindset, storytelling, and a little bit of fun and giggles along the way. Because we got to keep it light. We got to keep it fun. We got to keep it moving and shaking. So please, if you are going to tune in regularly, which I hope you do, because I want to cultivate a deeper connection with you, please make sure to subscribe so you don't miss any future episodes. You can leave a review so that we can reach more creatives and help lift each other up, help network and lift each other up. And also send this to a friend, anyone who you feel like is going after big dreams or just in the depths of overwhelm and confusion on their journey to more purpose, more passion, more profit. And I would love for you to screenshot the episode as a celebration. Tag me on Instagram at CuratedSplash, and I will reshare. Would love to reshare your tag and follow along on your journey. I want to connect with you. So make sure to follow me on Instagram and tag me. Share the podcast with others, and so that I can also follow along on your journey. So yeah, make sure to stay tuned for next week's episode number 2. And I hope to hear from you soon. If you have any questions, you can always reach out to me. My email is Lauryn, Lauryn, at curatedsplash.com. Feel free to send me a message. Let me know you're listening. Let me know what you're working on. I'd love to connect. So here's to being wildly creative and wildly capable, because wild is just more fun. Talk to you soon.